Hey everybody, welcome to Python Pandas Learning by Doing, where you get to watch a real data scientist dig into some real-ish data and do some pandas exercises. Definitely kudos to Grip Samora, whose library is online, referenced down below for the exercises that we're doing right now. So again, I've not seen any of these exercises before. We're going in cold, just so you can see me struggle harder, or you can sort of see me work things through. So with no further ado, let's get in, because this one I sort of skimmed, and it's a long one. Okay, import the necessary libraries. Pandas as PD. Now this is part of the visualization. So we're doing visualization, online retail is the specific exercises that we are doing. And then we will need to do matplotlib inline. So these are the two really important things that we need to do here. So I assume we need to do the pandas because it's pandas exercises in visualization, so matplotlib inline. So this is a CSV file. Let's actually check this out. We want to make sure that this is the correct separators. So pd.read CSV. So this is a big one. Okay, so I do know that this is literally inside of this repository right here. So it's online retail. So let's go ahead and do something like this. Less? Can I even do that? Unicode to code error. Ooh, gross. Let's just try to read this. So here's the address. Well, we can just literally read it from the file since it's right here. So online retail. And let's go ahead and do the encoding Latin, just because I have a feeling we'll need this. And this will be data frame. Let's go ahead and sort of see what this looks like. Okay, so this looks like we got it correct. So this is probably a little bit of a biggie here. I'm guessing it took a little bit of time to do this. Okay, so 54,000 rows, a total of 33 megabytes. So it's not a small one, but it's not a tiny one either. Okay, so let's get started. First, I'll create a histogram with the 10 countries that have the most quantity ordered except for the UK. So this looks to be sort of like purchase orders by countries, something like that. So first, let's go ahead and select all the countries except for the UK. So let's go ahead and make this df.head. Let's see what the UK looks like. Country, United Kingdom. Okay. So let's find all the countries that are not the United Kingdom. So no UK equals. Let's go with df.country does not equal the United Kingdom. Great. Let's go ahead and do that. And so we've got this. So this should be all the countries that don't have the UK. So no UK dot head. Perfect. So we've got other countries like France, etc. Let's make this a little bit smaller. Great. Okay, so we have all the countries that don't have the UK. Now let's go ahead and sort the countries based on how many they ordered. So we could go at, so there's quantities. So let's go ahead and group by. So let's go no UK dot group by. Let's go ahead and group by the country. Let's do ag. Always love the ag syntax. Let's go ahead and go on the quantity, and let's go ahead and take the sum of this quantity. So this should give us each country how much they ordered, the quantity that they ordered. Okay, so there's actually a lot of countries here. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and do sort values. Let's go ahead and sort by the quantity. Let's go ahead and make the ascending equal to false. Okay, and then let's just take the top, what did it say, 10? Top 10. Okay, so these are the top 10 countries. Netherlands orders a lot. An interesting data set. So I'll call this top 10. Great. Let's just do this. Oh, sorry. Let's go ahead and do that. Perfect. So we got the top 10. Now let's make a histogram of it. So top 10 dot plot, super simple, kind equals bar chart. Great. Okay, so here we go. So Netherlands really high up there, seems to really level off once it hits Sweden to just something that's sort of like a tail of other countries that are ordering stuff. Okay. Exclude negative quantity entries. That's an interesting point. I didn't even know that there were negative quantity entries. So there's a couple ways to do that. So let's go back up here. So this is our no UK. Let's go ahead, and so it says no UK. Let's go ahead and make this no UK. Let's make this also non-negative. Non-neg equals. To make this non-negative, we can do a couple of things. We can either exclude those entries. Well, it literally says exclude, so let's exclude them. Well, I could also zero them out, but literally says exclude. So let's do this. So let's do no UK, no UK, quantity, and then it needs to be greater than, quantity, didn't autocomplete. So it needs to be greater than 0. Probably greater than equal to, it's because it says exclude negative ones. So we can do that. And let's just go ahead and do this exact thing here. So let's do this. So we'll grab this top 10, and this will be top 10 based on the non-negative. Great. And it does seem to be the same list. Do the quantities look different? 2,000 or 20,000, 200,128 versus 200,937. So the quantities don't look super different. So this chart is probably not going to look super different. Okay. No, it doesn't look super different. Okay, great. So we were able to do that. Pretty simple. Create a scatter plot with countries per unit price by customer ID. The quantity per unit price. Okay, the quantity per unit price by customer ID. By customer ID. Why would you want a scatter plot on using the customer ID? It's kind of a weird question. Are these customer ID? I mean, is there something? I could imagine scatter plotting the quantity by unit price, but anyways, for the top 3 countries. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm assuming that it probably wants the no UK data, though I don't exactly know that. So let's check this out once again. Just look at the columns. So we got quantity, we have unit price, and then we have customer ID. Okay, I guess it really does want to, I mean, it's pretty clear here. Quantity per unit price. It's kind of a weird thing to do. Maybe let's do it unit price per quantity, just because it's, because the unit quantity per unit price. I guess what it's saying is that maybe the unit price changes as the quantity changes. Maybe it means quantity times unit price. So like the total amount that they bought. Let's do quantity times unit price, because otherwise it seems a little funky. Why would you divide the quantity by the unit price? Maybe, yeah, the unit price by the quantity makes sense, but the other way around really doesn't. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and say, let's make a column called total price. And this will equal no UK dot unit price times the no UK dot quantity. So this will be sort of the total price. Pretty simple. Right, we're setting on a value. Try using lock equals value instead. Sure, let's do that. So we can always just do dot lock and then colon. Perfect. Oh, row indexer, column indexer. I guess what it wanted us to do up here was to use lock. Not really a big deal. Let's just go ahead and check to make sure that this actually does contain our unit price. It's basically saying, you know, hey, this isn't going to be set on the original data frame. We're only setting it on a copy of the original data frame. Not a big problem. Okay, because we're probably just going to be using the no UK throughout. Okay, so now that we've got these two things, we can go ahead and do plot. The x can be the customer ID, and then the y can be the total price, price. Okay, and then the kind can equal scatter. Okay, so again, pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory, very easy to read. Key error customer ID. What is the ultimate problem? Oh, did I misspell customer ID? Customer ID. Well, let me just. Oh, ID. The D is capitalized. These types of things happen. Yeah, kind of a little bit funky here. So there are some interesting things to see. There are certainly some customers that order lots of negative total price. There are certain customers that order positive. And the customer ID doesn't seem to have any. I mean, it seems to be between specific ranges, but they're just customer IDs. Okay, interesting. Investigate why the previous results look so uninformative. This section might be tedious to go through, but I've thought of it as some simulation. But I've thought of it as some kind of simulation problems that one might encounter when dealing with data from other people. Besides, there's a prize at the end, section 8. But feel free to jump ahead straight to section 8 if you want. It doesn't require you to finish. Okay, let's try this section. Look at the first few lines of code in step 6 and figure out if it leads to any kind of problem. So first, in step 6, create a scatter plot. Yeah, I mean, this is funky. I don't know what it means by this. So let's display the first. What piece of code does, and the D type of unit price. Oh, unit price. It's a funky question. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this out. So what is it asking? Display the first few rows of this data frame. Okay, great. I think I need to kind of peek at the solutions to just make sure I'm doing this in the right way, because otherwise this feels really funky. Think about what that piece of code does and display the data type of data. Okay, let's just do a little peek. I hate to do this, but otherwise I really think that I'm just not doing this the exact way that they were doing it, and so it made errors. So let's just go ahead and see what they did for 6, and I promise I won't look any further. So you'll see they use this encoding, totally fine. Did bar chart. It looks better than ours, to be frank. If we use Seaborn, we could get it to look this good. Okay, so 6. So this is what they did. So quantity per unit price. Okay, so let's just take this. So they did some different stuff. So they grouped by customer ID and country. Okay, which makes sense because I should have done this for the top 3 countries. I just sort of misread that. Okay, so they by customer ID for the top 3 countries. So they just sort of, well, yeah, okay, so they found the top. Yeah, the grouping by is a little bit funky, but I should have gone ahead and segmented those. Okay, so let's go ahead and just use this as sort of like the baseline. Let's figure out what they did. So we've got online RT, so this will equal DF. So they grouped by customer ID and country. They then found customers with the unit price. So they found specific entries in this where the unit price was greater than 0. This is an outlier with a negative price. Okay, fine. It's kind of hard to know. Get the value of the index and put that into, okay. Again, they didn't really need to group by country as the first thing that they did. They could have just separated this out as the first thing. Okay, but you've got customers here. Okay, sure. Name SNS is not defined. Right, okay, that's totally fine. Import Seaborn as SNS. So they're using Seaborn, which is great. name PLT. Yeah, right, of course. Import matplotlib as dot pyplot as PLT. Okay. Right. Okay, so they did it by country in this case. Okay, totally fine. Yeah, this is super uninformative. Great. Okay, and so what they did was they plotted, yes, they plotted unit price by quantity, which makes sense. I'm super sorry that I really interpreted this question very differently. Scatter plot with the unit by, right, you can sort of understand quantity per unit price by customer ID for the top 3 countries. You can sort of understand how funkily worded this thing is. But I definitely see what they're doing now. Great. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. So let's display the results of the data frame here. So this is customers. Got it. So great. So right. So think about what the piece of, display the data type of. So the piece of code that they're talking about here is this thing, which is kind of funky. So what this thing basically does is it says, okay, the customers equals the, so let's just call this customers 1. So you group by customer ID and country, and then you sum all of these things, including the unit price, which doesn't really make sense to be summed, right? The unit price, it shouldn't really be summed. You should, it's kind of funky. If you want to group by customer, like what do you set the unit price to? There's multiple, the customers bought multiple things. Well, maybe it does make a little bit of sense. But anyways, okay, so let's keep going on here. So think about this. Pull data from RT for customer IDs. Okay, great. So let's go here. So let's go ahead and find dot head. Okay, so customer ID. So let's go ahead and say customer ID dot customer ID is in one of these things. Okay. Let's just make sure there's some stuff in here. Okay, so there are. So here's the data for these guys. Oh, okay. So some data for these guys. Okay, great. Pull data from and display the D type of unit price. So let's just make sure that we do all this sort of line by line here. Customers dot unit price dot D type. It's a float 64. Seems reasonable. And then what is the customers? Just to make sure here. Customers unit price D type. Okay, so it's always float 64. Okay, great. So we pulled this data. Create a scatter. To reiterate the question that we're dealing with. I wish the wording of the question were a little bit better. We could plot a single plot by looking at all data from top 3 countries, or we could do one plot per country. To keep things consistent, let's stick to the latter. So, but the top 3 countries with respect to what? Two answers suggest themselves: total sales volume, or total sales. So let's stick to that. Find the top 3 countries in terms of sales volume. Okay. So online RT dot head. Let's check this guy out. So all of this stuff. So unit price, quantity. So do we sales volume? Total sales. Okay. Sales volume is total quantity sold. Okay. Cool. So total quantity sold. Let's go ahead and see, did we do this whole thing where we took out the negative quantities? So quantity is less than 0, and then let's go ahead and dot sum. Okay, so there's a couple of examples where the quantity is less than 0. Let's go ahead and take those out. So online RT. Let's do let's do that. So this will be the ones all greater than 0. So we'll just keep these guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little value counts. Dot group by country dot ag. Okay, and so again, we're going to want to go ahead and grab the quantity. We did something super similar up above, and then we'll want to go ahead and do the sort values on the quantity. Oh dear Lord, why oh why are we doing this again? I think it's just because ascending equals false. Okay. So this includes UK. So Netherlands, okay, these are the 3 countries. Let's go ahead and put this here, so 5. Great. Okay, so these are the 3 countries. Okay, so now that we have the, top 3 countries, so that's going to be Netherlands. So top 3, I can go ahead and say is Netherlands. And Germany. Hopefully it's going to be excluding the UK. So now that we have the top 3 countries, we can focus on the rest of the problem. Quantity per unit price by customer ID. Okay, so by customer ID is easy. So that means we're going to be plotting 1 dot per customer ID on our plot. In other words, we're going to be grouping by customer ID. Okay. Quantity per unit price is going to be trickier. On one axis, we represent the quantity assigned to a given customer. That's easy. We can just plot the sum. On the other axis, the unit price. Remember, a single customer can have any number of orders with different prices. So summing them up isn't exactly. And it doesn't really, so it's sort of unclear what it means by unit price per customer. Exactly. This is why this sort of question didn't make much sense to me in the first place. So the average amount they paid. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So modify this. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Add a new column called revenue to calculate the quantity times. We'll use this later. Okay, great. Okay, so let's do this. So let's go up here again because they've already sort of given us a little plot thing. So okay, got it right. plt.scatter, quantity, unit price, facet grade customers. Okay, great. Okay, let's do it. So they've got the customers. We can't use the sum, so let's just grab this entire thing. And then let's do this. So going down, all the way down here. Let's start again. So we are going to be grouping by customer. There's no reason to group by country ID, right? So these are the top countries. Let's go ahead and make our customer only include, so customers they're only going to include the data from these countries. So yes, right down here. Great. Okay. So pretty simple. The first thing that we will do is we will say customers mers equals onlineRT.copy. So let's go ahead, let's grab our original data, let's throw it into here. Let's grab the top countries from this customers. So now it's only these countries. Let's just group by the country and the customer. Great. Okay, that's totally fine. The problem here is we don't want to sum, right? So also we want to go ahead and add, so if we read down here, we want to go ahead and add on the a revenue column as well. So let's go ahead and do this. So customers, so in this case, it's going to be revenue equals, this will be super simple. So it's customers dot unit price times customers dot quantity. This is kind of what I thought people were interested in the first point, in the first idea. Okay, so we've got revenue. So let's go ahead. We've got top countries. Great. So add on revenue. Okay, cool. So we get the top company or countries. We go ahead, we group by these guys. Okay, great. Let's go ahead. Sure, totally fine. We can go ahead and do that. Customers with unit price greater than 0. I mean, we should just take these out even beforehand. No reason to just group by and then do this. So let's go ahead and top countries. So we got the top countries. We made sure the unit price is non-zero. Great. Now let's group by the customers. So let's go ahead and group by. Awesome. Get the value and put that in Yergderg. Okay, don't want to do that. Let's go ahead and take the rest of this out and sort of see where we are. So customers dot head. Okay, so in this point, we've not done the ag yet, so let's do the ag. Okay, so we're grouping by these guys. We want to go ahead and get their revenue, and we want to get the sum, their total revenue. We want to get the quantity. We want to also get the sum, and then we want the price. So this will be the what is it called? Right, unit price, and we don't want the sum. In this case, we want the average, so the mean. So let's check this out. Okay, so in this case, we've got customer ID, we've got the country, we've got the revenue, the quantity, and the unit price. So we are on track. We're doing really good. So now we want to go ahead and just start doing the plotting stuff. So we already went ahead and segmented it to the countries that we wanted to. I guess what we also want to do is we want to reset index. So let's do that before we do this. So dot reset index, and then let's go ahead and make this in place equals true. Sweet. Okay, so it's now just sort of a normal data frame. And then we can just do the graph section. Very, very simple. So they're using Seaborn, really excellent thing. I've done an entire sort of tutorial on Seaborn. They're using Facet Grid, also super excellent thing. So Facet Grid on column country, and then we can plot. And you can do this plt.scatter as well. You can also do another version of this as well, which you can use Seaborn Scatter. To use Seaborn Scatter, you'll need to make things a little bit different. Instead of doing g.map. So in this case, so let's just do this. And so instead of doing g.map, you need to do g. What is it called? Map data frame. So that's the one that you'll need to do. But because we've already spent a lot of time on this, I'm not going to sort of go through that. So I'm just going to go ahead and use what they've got here. So we're going to do quantity by unit price and add the legend. So should be pretty simple. Still super ugly. Okay, great. So we modified the plot to go ahead and get the quantity per average unit price, which is, again, it's kind of a little bit nonsensical. I don't know what this means, why anyone would be interested in this, but we continue on. So group customer ID and country and find out what the average price each customer spends on the unit. Yeah, exactly. So we just did that. It does still, yeah, it still doesn't. But two things. Data seems skewed towards the axis. So we don't have any values where quantity is 5,000, average price is 5. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So that might suggest a trend. We have more data. We've only been looking at 3 different countries. So we should plot the data regardless of country and see if something comes through. Okay. I guess we'll do that. So yeah, let's just go ahead and plot that. So we can use, so we're not going to do this on a per country basis. So we're just going to do this on sort of a non per country basis. So again, let's just copy all this code. No reason to waste it. And so in this case, we don't need to segment on country at all. We don't need to group on country. Just on this. And you can sort of see what this gives us. This just gives us customer ID. And then we can just do SNS dot scatter plot. and we can say the x equals, what have we normally done? What is the x normally? So the x is going to be the quantity, and then the y will be the unit price. Quantity, and then y will equal unit price, and then the data will equal customers. Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like people that order smaller quantities seem to order more unit price, and people that order lower quantities or more quantities seem to always stick at a very, very low unit price. I mean, which makes sense. We are technically averaging unit price as well, so if there's fewer orders, as we see them, there will be of high unit price, the average will go down. So zoom in so we can see it more carefully. I'm just gonna skip that question. Okay, so here is, I think, maybe where show the revenue per unit price. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so step 7, give us any, sure, average price increases, the quantity decreases. Okay, yeah, that wouldn't be surprising. The draft rate is it's dramatic. So I mean, why, how our revenue changes with respect to the unit price. It would be surprising if it didn't change that much, but it'd be interesting to know whether most of the revenue comes from most expensive or inexpensive items. So group the unit price by intervals for prices. Intervals of 1 for prices, okay? And then some quantity and revenue, okay? And group the unit price by intervals of 1 and some quantity and revenue. And some quantity and revenue. Why would you sum quantity and revenue? I'll ignore that comment here because that's again just very confusing. Let's go ahead and do some grouping here. I think we might be able to do this with PD cut. Let's go ahead and check it out. Okay. So we can cut the sequence of scalars or max interval bin by int. Okay. Sequence of scalars defines the bin edges. Okay, let's go ahead and try this. Let's do pd.cut. Let's call this, so we've got customers dot unit price. So we will want to cut the unit price, and we'll want it to be in bins of range. We're going to go from 0 to 50. Okay. And let's just go ahead and do describe. Let's see what this looks like. Okay. So, 2 to 3, right? Because so what we get here is we actually get the literal bins. So we've got bins. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So we've made these bins. What we can do with these bins, so we can either convert them back into numbers themselves. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. Ret bins, precision, include lowest. Continuous into account. Yeah, it's for continuous into categorical. So, so this is good enough. So we can call these price, I guess, customers dot price bins. Let's go ahead and do this. Simplicity, price bins. Okay, cool. So we've got some price bins. Great. So we can plot. So I think that what we should do here is, instead of plotting the bins themselves as sort of little categories, we should probably go ahead and make these categories into numbers. So let's go ahead and check this out. So let's see what a price bin is. Are these guys strings or objects? So let's go ahead. What is the D type? Is a category. Okay. Let's go ahead and check this out. So I want to see if we can get x dot, let's see, is there a way that I can go ahead and convert this into ordinal? Maybe not. Maybe we can just use these bins, because it does actually save us a little bit of work. Let's see what plotting this actually looks like. So let's go ahead and say x these values, y-axis isn't easy to read, show it in terms of millions. Okay, so SNS dot, this is going to be bar plot. The x will equal to the price of bins. And then the y will equal to, in this case, the revenue. Okay, let's check this out. Revenue. Price bins. Did I not save this? Oh, of course. And then data equals customers. Great. Let's check this out. This is going to be a big old plot. Yeah, okay, yeah, look at that. Crazy. So there's a little bit of stuff here. But this is the revenue. And we can check this out in terms of quantity 2. Quantity. Yeah, it's still that same thing. Yeah, it looks like someone just, there's one outlier that really just completely killed this data. So for the sake of going ahead and doing this, so quantity is here. Let's go ahead and just do some Winsorization. Can you do a Winsorization inside of this? Okay. So yeah, so what I want to do is I want to take off the top extreme of quantity, just to go ahead and plot this a little bit better. So let's go with customers dot quantity dot percentile I think, okay, peak put prod, okay, let's see here, pd dot percentile, no, okay, quantile, okay, so let's go ahead and get the maybe the 95th quantile of quantity. Okay, let's do the 99th. Is 10,000. So that goes here, which I think is totally fine. So let's go ahead and do that. What I will do, and you can kind of see this right here, is I will replace the, so this will be the, this will be the top. I guess this will be the stuff we want to trim. And we're going to go ahead and, I guess let's call this, I kind of want to call this 99th percentile, but I don't want to start it with. So percentile 99. Okay. So this will give us the percentile 99. Let's go ahead and find times when this is greater than or equal to the percentile 99. And then let's just make this, okay, so that's good. And let's go ahead and take this. Okay, so cool. So first I want to go ahead and make a copy of the quantity column. So quantity, so I will do, here we go, dot copy, just to be safe. I want to call this trimmed quantity. Great. And then where the trimmed quantity is greater than the 99th one, I want to make this equal to the 99th. So I basically want to just set it equal to the 99th. This will help our visualizations a little bit. So, okay, this should be equal to the 99th, and then I'll just kill this. So, yep, trim quantity, where trim quantity. So let's go ahead and check this out. On a slice, a copy of a slice, yep, totally fine. great. So let's try this. Let's try this on trimmed quantity instead. So hopefully this will look a little bit nicer. Excuse me. Oh wow, yeah, it's still super. So let's go ahead and make this, instead of 99, let's make this 95, just so we can see a little bit more of what's actually happening here. Okay. Yeah, okay, so you can see a lot of this activity is just driven by, and so what we can also do here is just do xticks, plt.xticks dot rotate equals true, maybe? Yeah, I can believe it. No? Rotation. Let's go rotation. Keyword args. Range. Rotation goes to true. Let's just make sure that this will be good. Okay, so rotation goes to true. Looks good. Okay, I can take this out. Still looks gross. Rotation goes to 90. Let's try that. Maybe true, just default it to 1. Ugh. Okay. Yeah, so something around this 37th bin. So it's really skewing up. Okay. X needs value or values, and Y isn't easy to read. Show it in terms of millions. So this is pretty easy to read in this case. So we're definitely seeing like there is one sort of just massive, I guess, outlier you'd call it in this case, in terms of one, actually it's not just one, there's actually a couple of customers that go ahead and hit above this. So for example, in this guy, there's probably a couple, in this guy, there's probably a couple, but right here, it's just this massive guy. They go ahead and trim down. So anyways, I hope this has been interesting to you. It's been a longer one, much longer one than a normal one. But it's also been really complicated, and hopefully it's given you kind of a little bit of like, this is a very kind of gross, hairy problem, and we've definitely had to go ahead and solve it. So let's go ahead and check out the solutions right before we make this video and call it an end, just so we can see what our creator of these exercises kind of had wanted. Okay, so investigating why the previous results looked so bad. So yeah, they were basically just talking about, hey, unit price, we shouldn't go ahead and make the unit price a sum or an average. So excluding UK, great. Add revenue, great. So quantity, yep, so they sum the quantity and revenue, and then they do the average price by the revenue. They did revenue divided by quantity. That's interesting. They did revenue divided by quantity instead of the unit price in this case. Okay. Plottable. What is plottable revenue? Just one more time. So that's the quantity times the unit price is the revenue, and then they divided it by the quantity again. Which is different because they grouped the quantity. Not exactly sure why they did that, why the plottable average price is here. Okay, so they've got these countries, they have facet grid, looks pretty similar to ours, looks exactly the same to ours, right? Let's go up here. Yeah, it is the same. Okay, yeah, didn't really help too much. Yep, and so they do it in a single graph. Looks very similar to ours. Okay, this is kind of nice. So the nice thing that they did here is they went ahead and made the X lim and the Y lim, so they did actually zoom in. So that does look a little bit nicer. Definitely does. Okay, cool. So let's group the price into buckets. Yep, they use pd.cut. Great. Perfecto. Unit price. Oh, this is actually really nice. So they actually did a little line chart as well. Okay, so it's kind of interesting to me that this looks a little bit different than what we got. So they did this bucket. Why is this a little bit different? So did this? Oh, well, of course. So they actually took the. So we actually plot it with the confidence intervals as well. So in this case, we used SNS to do the plot before we did. In this case, they probably did a group by. In this case, so if we did this group by and they summed it, they summed the revenue on the group by. So so they were looking at the sum of the revenue. Instead, what I was looking at was this is sort of the revenue, just the revenue. So if we want to look at the sum of the revenue, it would be pretty simple as well. So if you can see over here, they just simply grouped by these buckets. They plotted it. Again, if they make it this line chart, you don't get these nice X labels, it didn't seem like. But they added these X labels in there. So, okay, this is actually really, really nice. It's definitely better. You can tell that this author knew the data that they were working with a little bit more. I hope you've kind of seen sort of a different approach and sort of where we came from and sort of how we worked with things, just sort of off the cuff and on the fly. If this was helpful for you, go ahead and leave a thumbs up. I hope you sort of enjoyed seeing another person, and I've been doing this for a very long time. I kind of struggle with these questions, so if you were struggling with them, definitely do not feel alarmed. So definitely leave a like, leave a subscribe if you liked it, and if otherwise, just go ahead and I'll see y'all again. I need to go ahead and catch my breath from this one. This was quite a long one. Thanks.